Is it?
We're
Did
live.
you see the countdown? I saw
Yeah,
no countdown.
we are.
Well,
Nine,
we're live, but I don't know about you, Dr. Jada. I was waiting for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 situation. And
seven.
apparently this decided to just be like one. So we are live. Welcome everyone. This is Dr. Ericka. Welcome to Growth Groove with Dr. Ericka. I am so excited to not only be with you today, but to have on one of my super friends talking about something that I know people are talking about right now. So I wanted to make sure that I brought value to you and let you know about stuff that might actually make a difference for you. Now I got a few little devices on over here, but it looks like we are streaming. We are live. I saw us. So I can turn all that stuff off because I want to give 100% of my attention to you. So tonight we are talking about how to dial back on weight gain. Hear it from the doctors. So I know everyone's been talking about their COVID-15, their COVID-19, their COVID snacks, and how their waistbands on their sweatpants and leggings are getting tight, how the jeans are just. So I wanted to come on in because the other thing is not only are these going to be tools and things that are useful right now, given everything that's going on, but they're tools and strategies that'll be useful even when this is over. Because one of the things people talk about is their weight. We were talking about our weight way before COVID. We'll be talking about our weight and our wellness way after COVID. So I'm so excited to be here today with my guest, Dr. Jada, one of my super friends. So I want to give you a quick few things up on the top. So number one, if you feel like anybody needs this, please tag them. Please feel free to share this also. And if you're watching this later, it's all good. Just put hashtag replay in the comments so I know you were here. Even if you watch it later, stick something in the comments. I'll still come and check on you. And thank you, Joy, for joining. We're so excited to have you. Again, I'm Dr. Ericka, double board certified psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I help women who are disgruntled with life and love redefine and reboot their dreams in order to attract more aligned people and opportunities. I'm coming to you with over 15 years of human behavior experience, and I'm going to help you keep your sanity. So where are you right now, Dr. Jada? What city are you in?
Actually, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I call home. Atlanta, hot Atlanta.
Yes, so we're both rolling from the ATL today. I know people are out doing all kinds of stuff. Are they wearing masks up in your neighborhood? I know they aren't wearing masks in my neighborhood.
So not seeing a lot of masks, but I am still seeing some. I think people are really taking advantage of the warm weather and just kind of jumping out to get into it. And so they may have left their mask in the car.
All right. And thanks, Dr. Khadijah, for coming on. We're just so happy to have you. So since we're getting people on, Dr. Jada, so Dr. Jada is, number one, she's phenomenal. This is one of my, as taking words from Dr. Khadijah, this is one of my business besties. So I can't take credit for the word because I heard her use it long before I even thought of it. So this is one of my business besties. I respect her so much. Not only does she have a background in family medicine and obesity medicine, so she is what? Double boarded. Is that she also has a background of being an emotional eating and weight loss wellness coach. I may have remixed that. It's so many words.
All of those work. All of those are true. So it doesn't matter how you put it. It's me.
Yes. And thanks for coming on, Shalene. So I'm going to let Dr. Jada tell you some more about herself because I'm sure she can do it a little bit better than I did.
I don't know. You did great. Thanks so much for having me. It is my pleasure to be here tonight on Growth Groove and to share a little bit with your groups and my groups and all of those that get a chance to watch us for a little bit tonight as we talk about how to dial back on weight gain. I'm Dr. Jada. I'm your weight loss and wellness expert, physician, coach, speaker, and soon to be author. I help high achieving and results driven women weigh less and further their success through my comprehensive medical weight loss strategies, my signature coaching programs, and my online content. I help you not only look great, but feel better and live at your best. So it's my pleasure to serve tonight. And I'm so excited to share with everyone because this is a serious topic. Of course, I would say so. This is my thing. So I'm passionate about it. So I'm loving the opportunity to share.
Well, that is some great stuff. And I love that you mentioned at the end of the day, everyone wants to look sexy. Everyone wants to be able to wear their skinny jeans, or when it gets cold, wear those leather jeggings. Not jeggings, leggings. The leather leggings, the faux leather leggings. Because I don't know about you, I don't feel like paying the money for the real leather. Is that there's something about feeling good and being healthy. So it's almost like one of those things that when you're at a weight you feel comfortable at, it's almost like it's the cherry on top of the great sundae, but the base of the sundae is actually being healthy.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And actually, I believe that those two converge. They really are hard to separate. Being healthy just naturally means that not only are you physically healthy, but you're emotionally healthy, your confidence is great, you feel good about yourself and your surroundings, and you take pride in the things that you do and how you do them. So, a lot of what we experience physically can really have a big impact on that. And I definitely see that in my weight loss clients. So there's no separating the two. Healthy and happy and whole and all of those things are all combined together.
So I know today we are talking about weight, and I want to get your opinion on something before we go into the details of how to dial back the weight gain. Because you know what, for a lot of people, they measure weight in a few kinds of ways. So, you can measure what your measurements are, like your girth and all kinds of stuff. And then there's the dreaded scale.
Yes.
And I know there are a lot of thoughts from different people about how often you should weigh. What's kind of your thought of how often should people be jumping on the scale?
So I'm gonna probably shock you with this, and I'm probably gonna upset a few people with it. But I actually recommend for my clients, especially when they're in my programs, to weigh daily. And let me tell you why. Because that information is data. And we can use that data for decision making, right? So if we're able to use that data for decision making, that guides us along our process. So sometimes people are just afraid of the scale, or they have hate
Yeah.
relationships, or they put it off, and sometimes even put the scale away. But that is a number one no. And I always say, you cannot separate yourself from the scale. That is mistake number one. And it will not end well if you do not keep your scale nearby. Now, to your point, everything is not all about the scale, but we do need the scale because the scale gives us data, and we can use the data for decision making.
Thank you so much, because I know there's so many different thoughts about how often people weigh. So I was curious to know what you thought. I also want to take a quick moment to say hello to Dr. Otis, hello to Dr. Dietra, hello to Bria, who says she also weighs daily. Then Jay had said that diet is really what he needs to work on.
Mhm.
And Joy has more comedy. She says, me and my scale fight daily, but it does help me think about what I'm going to eat that day. So I just wondered, that was just on my heart. I just had to ask.
That's a great question. That's a great, yeah.
Thank you so much. I try to do the good questions, try. So where I'd like to go next is, so people right now are, people have been eating their snacks, living their best snack life right now. This is also a time where people may have also been doing some emotional eating. What are some of, like, just kind of some intro of what things people can do to just start reining it in, or to start thinking about some things to do more mindfully?
Sure. I think that's a great question. Because people had to transition so quickly, one thing I think that didn't happen is some people didn't get a chance and an opportunity to create a plan. So that's what I would say. No matter where you are in the process, start with a plan. And part of the plan is going to include a schedule. So the things that you need to do to manage yourself, just like you would your job, you keep a schedule. We need to do that during this time period when things have shifted, and it has to be reflective of our current situation. So that includes what time you'll go to bed, what time you'll wake up, what time you'll eat your first meal, second or third, snacks if they're included, and what those will actually be. There is no substitution for following a schedule, a reasonable, well thought out schedule, when it comes to dialing back on weight gain.
That's an excellent point. And I think one of the other things that's important about scheduling is there's something that's magical about when you make a time for something versus it's kind of like, I'm going to do this haphazardly. I'm going to eat sometime. I'm going to work out sometime. I'm going to do this whenever. That there's something magical about when you've actually become intentional to think of when you're going to actually do it that I feel like makes a difference in being able to actually stick to it.
Sure, I absolutely agree. Magic in that is that it's the first step towards self-care. And so when you incorporate that in your day, you're thinking of yourself from the very beginning. You're thinking of yourself from the night before. And so when I'm coaching my clients, I definitely want them to understand that this is either you're caring for yourself or you're not. So, and you know, we have to sometimes kind of really put a microscope to that and look at what that looks like. What kind of things are we saying yes to? What kind of things are we saying no to? What kind of things are we saying maybe to? And so we can create that synergy with what we say and what we do.
I love that. And I love the fact that you're bringing out the point that basically at some point you have to commit to yourself or invest in yourself and choose you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this is all about. And a lot of times we can get kind of really hyper focused on just the diet or just what I'm eating, just what I'm not eating. And a lot of times it's what I'm not eating when I start to work with people who have really been trying but not successful at weight loss. There are some things that are clearly there that are missing as much as there are things that are present. So we really have to kind of align those two. So to your point, starting with self is key. And it has to be intentional and not reactional.
Okay. So we do have a question. Joy asked, how much faith do you put in eating for the ectomorph or mesomorph body types or your blood type? Fact or fiction?
So my answer to that is I believe that there are certainly things that are very common features that I see in certain body types or body structures. Some of that comes from the DNA, and very often, if you're looking at people who have a certain body habits, they can look at the person next to them, the next in line to them, to their parents or aunts or cousins, things like that, and then they can see some commonalities. Looking at the health assessment, we can also see some commonalities. I think that there is some value to understanding what things are associated, and then determining what about those things are fixed and what about those things are not. And then that's where we begin to put the action into where those things that are not fixed. So her question is, should you follow this? Is it true? Is it not true? I definitely believe that each individual metabolizes differently and they function differently. There are things that kind of operate. It's just like having blue eyes or brown or yeah. So it's just like those kinds of things. So there are some things that are specifics where I think we have to be clear though is how to create a plan that's going to be workable, doable, feasible, and sustainable regardless.
Oh, and I love that when you mentioned about things about a plan that you mentioned sustainable because some of my girlfriends, we were actually talking about it. A friend of ours is doing this challenge. She's beasted out this challenge. I ain't gonna lie, she's been a beast. But one of the things about some of these plans that come up is sometimes they're not sustainable. They're things that you can do for a short period of time. So sometimes if you don't have a sustainable plan, it's hard to reach your goal because if what you had to do to get there was so restrictive that most likely you're not going to be able to do that long term, which means it affects your ability to have long term results.
Yeah, I think you're right in that first of all, a long range game plan is very important because you want to start with the end in mind. So it's really important to do that. One of the things that I also find is that sometimes people aren't willing or able to see the long game and they need help. Now, there are many ways to reduce weight, sometimes quickly, sometimes moderately, sometimes slowly. But what I believe is that, especially when I'm working with my clients, is that there are phases to the process. And there are phases that they should experience and they should really become comfortable and familiar with so that as we phase through these things, and because there are phases in our lives, right? There are phases in, we have a great week, we have though. So being able to tool up, TOOL up, with ways to transition throughout those phases is what I think creates the pathway to a successful, permanent result.
Well, I'm intrigued by these phases. Now I want to know, what are some of these phases?
Well, you gotta come see me.
I was like, I'm gonna put this question out here, but she might tell me to go read her book.
But no, let me just say, for example, I'll give you an example, is that when I'm working with clients, there's a distinct difference between the weight loss, active weight loss, and maintenance. Right. So those are two different phases, two different stages, and they function very differently. You need to do something differently in active weight loss that is not necessarily the needed approach in the maintenance phases, and they both have to happen in order to kind of get and cultivate that long-term result. So there are definitely phases where even depending on where people are, I look at what your body's doing or what it's capable of doing metabolically. So for example, I may need to start out with just the jump start for the metabolism. So that is a phase in of itself. So it all depends on where we are, where we need to go, how fast we need to get there. Because sometimes people are not just losing weight because they want to fit into skinny jeans or they want to wear leather leggings. Sometimes it's really for health reasons. They need to prepare for a knee surgery, or they need
Looks like we got you back.
Yeah, so, we talked about this and there it happens. So it's over with, one and done. So it really depends on kind of what we're working with and why we're working on that in order to determine how those phases pan out. Well, so
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I think you brought out some really good points as far as, number one, that for a lot of this stuff, people need a customized approach.
Yeah.
That, and also what you're doing may change depending on what your goals are, where you are, physically and emotionally, and what your needs are. That can also significantly affect your plan. And then there are so many reasons people may be concerned on their weight that some may be vanity, but there are some true health issues that people may be struggling with that leads to why they're concerned about their weight or feel like they need to take action on it. Looks like we have a question from the floors. Shalene says she's struggling with macros and micros. I won't lie, I remember when I did macros. It was, it's okay if I share a little bit, Dr. Jada?
Please do. This is what
So everyone on here may not know my full weight story. So it's kind of intriguing that we do this right now, because I actually have a kind of little bit of story about it. Okay. So when I turned 40, I was decisively overweight. I wasn't, depending on how you cut it, but I was overweight. And over the next couple of years, I worked really hard on getting healthy. And when I lost that last bit, and then I was so flabby. I was doing a bunch of macros, but I definitely understand the struggle, because it took a lot of deliberate action. And it took a lot of time to actually really be intentional about macros. Like, it's not like one of those things where you're like, I'm only going to eat 2 apples in a day. Like, it takes a lot of work to manage macros. And I think one of the things about a lot of these different stages, a lot of these different things is, number one, you have to always ask yourself, what's it worth to you? The second is, what are you willing to do? Because what I realized, because I lost a bunch of weight, then over a few years I gained it back, and then I've lost about 20 pounds since I've been sheltering in place. Thank you. I stand up, but we're not gonna do that. But yeah, I feel much better. There's more pep in my step right now. But the thing is I remember having a conversation with my mom about the fact that when I thought about when I was at one of my highest levels of physical fitness and physical wellness, was that part of the issue I feel like a lot of us have, and I'm gonna lump me in it, is this expectation that it's going to be convenient. Being healthy, a lot of that lifestyle is not extremely convenient. It's not easy. It's not convenient. It takes work. So I think some of it is, there's an element, and I'm sure Dr. Jada will talk about it more, is there's an element of being open and willing to change, and also being open and willing to put the necessary energy behind the action it takes to get results. You can't just click your heels 3 times and lose weight, have a bomb body, have a 6-pack, have great cholesterol and a phenomenal blood sugar. It just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. You're right. It all of those things are things that we wish could happen. But what I usually would say is there's some hard, but then there's some easy when we can create the right intentions and the right why. And I think the hard part is what sometimes is the resistance that people hit when it comes to being consistent and being able to kind of push through to the results phase.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of times the big challenge is that we've already put on the or have imprinted that this is going to be hard.
Right.
And that's exactly what you get back. And so the other thing that I find is people think about it as this is going to be hard until. So it's like there's this destination. And when I get there, oh my gosh, I'll be so glad because then I can just go back to easy. so so framing the mind and to be prepared for weight loss is a very, very important element that is often overlooked. And that's where I like to start with my clients.
Well, and that's excellent. And I think you're bringing up a great point of why sometimes it's helpful to have someone working with you on this journey, because it's hard sometimes to fix your mindset on your own. Because Dr. Khadijah mentioned something, and then someone else, Lisa, mentioned mindset is key, and that sometimes it's hard to make all those mindset shifts on your own. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people will start with the first interventions. And I'm just, Dr. Jada gonna tell you about her life, is that, you know, people are working on mindset, getting in a space where people believe that they can change, and believe they deserve this, whatever this life is that they want, or this lifestyle. But being in a space where you start building the small wins, naturally someone's not going to start, if you just started with Dr. Jada. I haven't done her program yet, but I can pretty much be sure that she's not going to talk to you and say, hey, yeah, now I need you to do macros. You know, it's always these people find different formulas to do stepwise interventions to get you to where you need to be. And one of the things I think that's neat about her is that it's not a situation where she's just looking at you and being like, well, go do some burpees and run around the block a little bit and eat some kale. That she has so much knowledge, because she's trained from a coaching background, and also has the knowledge base of not only being a family physician, but also being specialized trained in obesity medicine. So she can put together plans that I feel like have a level of superiority in them, because she can take into account what physically is going on with you from a medical perspective, what's going on in your head that may be holding you back, and then come up with a plan that gets you there. That's just my interpretation.
That's you nailed it. You nailed it, because far too long, even, and I'm just going to kind of go there, even in medicine and in our training, in our kind of traditional approach, is that we say, and I get clients all the time who have seen their regular doc. One thing that kind of unnerves me often is that their regular doc had not even mentioned to them that they needed or would benefit from losing weight. The second thing is, if they mentioned it, did not give them a strategy. And so when I'm working with people, a lot of times we're telling folks, or they're being told, eat less and exercise more. And that can be the beginning of such a frustrating cycle, because that doesn't always, that's kind of, there's kind of, that's old metrics, it's old ways of thinking. And what we know now in the field is just so much more expansive than that. And so a lot of times the next thing is to let me latch on to this popular diet. This is going to work. Let me do diets that start with a K. Let me do diets that start with a P. Let me do diets. And so
I love how you did that without saying them.
yeah. So, and it's like starting all over again. So I definitely believe that having, first of all, to understand the complexities of the why, and then begin to peel back the layers. And that's what's really important in really helping people who are not finding true success with that general approach of eating less and exercising more.
Well, and I think you brought out a huge point, which is a lot of times people go in, they go to the doctor, and I love all my colleagues, but it's sometimes it's like, just like you said, they'll just say, well, you need to lose weight.
Yeah.
And the average person, number one, there's so much noise out there. It's, the health and wellness space has a million people in it.
Yeah.
There are a million people telling folks how to exercise, a million people telling you what to eat, a zillion supplements. If I did not have someone that recommended a protein powder, trying to even choose a protein powder is like a nightmare. There's just, and the other thing is, there's so many different ways to do things that you could get caught up in. My mom's on here, and my mom throws me under the bus sometimes, so I'm gonna use her as an example. Is that at one point she was watching Dr. Oz religiously.
Mm-hmm.
She loved her Dr. Oz. She was watching Dr. Oz. And anybody that remembers what Dr. Oz's content was, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, is I swear almost every day he had on somebody and was talking about weight loss. But it was something different almost every day or every couple of days. So one day they're talking about green tea. One day they're talking about Garcinia, whatever. I can only spell it. It was literally something different every day. And when she would try to do some of the things that they talk about, you couldn't complete anything anyway, because every day they said something different. And these things weren't things you could all do together. So I think it's useful to have someone that you can work with, or at least to get some information of how to start, because there's so much out there that, number one, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
There's no way to do all this stuff. And the other thing is then you end up just kind of going from one thing to another. And it's just like some of the things I work with being a psychiatrist, is that if you don't complete the process, you're not going to get the result. And it's something people see in coaching too, is if someone says do A, B, and C, but you do A, you won't get the result of A, B, and C. And unfortunately, a lot of the information out there, if you don't have the knowledge or someone to help guide you through it, it's just hard to figure it out, because everyone's saying something different. Some people are saying eat this, some are saying do all this cardio, someone's saying lift all these weights, someone's saying, but if you gotta run, it's just something all the time.
Yeah, it really is. And I think part of what happens is, in medicine, we like to we generally start with a problem. We figure out what is the problem, and then that gives us a pathway to diagnose, and then to create a solid treatment plan or approach. And we have to look at the issue of weight or weight gain or abnormal weight gain or difficulty with losing weight, which, by the way, are two different things. And if I can use a technical but sometimes offensive word, excess fat, if we think about obesity and all of those terms that kind of capture the essence of excess weight, what I think we have to do is recognize that this is This is a condition, and there's something behind it. The weight is a symptom of a different or another or a bigger or a more complex set of problems.
Can I give a church finger?
You can give a church.
Preach.
You can give a church. So the weight is a symptom. So that's why it's so challenging to really move that permanently. Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate you saying weight is a symptom, because the other thing is when sometimes the people, we're lucky as physicians, it's a blessing and a curse that we have random knowledge about all kinds of things. So sometimes we figure it out ourselves. But especially if you don't, or even if you're just so busy in the minutia and you even have training, is that one of the great things about coordinating with a doctor, even if it isn't someone that's doing all your care, is that there are some reasons, and you probably will hear about it because we have a good friend, another super friend, Dr. Lakeisha, that talks about this also, is there are so many medical things or physical things that can affect your weight. So she'll talk a lot about how your hormones, when they're out of balance, can also cause weight gain. The weight gain that happens in menopause may be a little bit different. Dr. Janine was on here. She would also talk about how weight gain after pregnancy has a kind of different feel to it. And then, Dr. Jada is here, and she's also a physician. So when people have issues with their thyroid, it could show up as weight gain. You can have weight issues that are due to some insulin insensitivity. I mean, there are just a lot of other things, along with possibly even some of the medications you're on. It's nice sometimes, if you're not successful on your own, having someone that's knowledgeable to assess, to make sure that there's not something else going on that's causing it. So like in my field, it's, I think the thyroid, I feel like is the thing that kind of jacks everything up, because we can have mood disorders that are because of a thyroid. Well, if you have a thyroid issue and I try to treat your mood disorder with an antidepressant, it's not going to help. So as if you have another underlying medical problem that is impacting your weight, but all you're doing is running on a treadmill or trying to eat less carbs, it may not necessarily fix it. So the great thing about having someone to work with, like Dr. Jada, is having someone that can customize, but also keep in mind if there's another underlying cause other than something that may be mindset or emotional.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And just to touch on a point that you mentioned, is that I do work with a number of physicians. I work with a number of nurses. So you kind of alluded, is that it's almost like this should be easy. And I remember when I had my first child, and it was my goal and plan to lactate, and it was the hardest thing ever. The hardest thing ever. And I'm like, this is supposed to be natural, right? I mean, I teach people how to do this. I'm trained to do this, but yet I'm struggling with it. And so I had to get help from a lactation consultant, because that's what she did. And I was ultimately successful. So I think that sometimes we just have to recognize when we have made a reasonable effort and we've done what we know to do, and we don't know what to do next. So getting someone that is qualified and has the knowledge is really, I think, tantamount to the next. So when I think, even with you're saying physicians should know, and so everybody has their specialties, right? No, that even with training, we can remember and be an expert in every single area that we ever learned or trained in. So I always give people grace, and I release them to reach out and to get help. It's not a sign of weakness or lack of knowledge. It's a step towards self-love and self-care.
Thank you so much. So I guess my next question is, because there are a lot of people out there, I know a lot of folks are trying to figure out how to, get their health and wellness together. What are some signs for someone that they may need some assistance more than looking some stuff up on the internet or getting a personal trainer? What are some signs that they could use some additional help in getting their health and weight under control?
Sure. So that's a great question. One of the things that that I will always go to is the assessment. Like what's going on? Okay, we know the weight is there. What else is there? What other symptoms or conditions are you experiencing that may be weight related? So now we start to look at risk. So we determine how really important is it for you to do this, and what kind of timeline would we be working with. So there's something called fat mass disease. So when I'm doing assessments, I'm looking to see what other things are related to this weight. So that's the first thing, is determining what kind of other things are going on, what's your risk, and how do we really need to approach this, and in what timeline. When having other health conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arthritis, PCOS, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome, having sleep apnea, having gastroesophageal reflux or acid reflux, as some people may say. When you start to see other conditions emerge that are related or caused by the obesity, it's time to get help if you have not been able to successfully dial back the weight gain, but also move towards weight loss. So then I said, give it a time frame. Give yourself a time frame. It's the same thing you would if there was anything else. Let's just say you were trying to do your taxes yourself, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try this, and if this works, then but if not, I'm gonna have to reach out to somebody. The same thing if you were trying to fix your car, if there was a noise. So I really want us to think about what it is that we're asking ourselves to do. We're asking ourselves to be an expert in an area that we're not. So the thing is to then reach out to get the help, and to reach out to the right place and the right person and the right source that can help you get to there. So for example, if you've reached out and you may be working with someone in the area of fitness, you're working with them in fitness, and 6 months have passed, 9 months have passed, 12 months have passed, and you're about the same as you were when you started, especially when it comes to weight. Not to say you haven't gotten stronger or have the ability to do more of the activities that they give you. If your weight is still the same and you made a concerted effort in that area, then we should then have a threshold for when to go to the next step. So those are a few of the things that I always say, look at those things first. If you say, I'm going to do this for a certain period of time, and my goal is not only to lose weight in that period of time, but maintain the loss for a certain period of time thereafter. If the two are not happening hand in hand, then that may be an indicator that there's time to get help. And then finally, if there are things that are limitations, when there are limitations, and I did a Facebook Live on this probably over a year ago, if you can't bend down to pick up things from the floor, if you were in a crowded building or crowded space, which we shouldn't be right now, and you could not move your body to save your life, to get out or to exit 100 yards, 200 yards, or whatever, that's an indicator that there's something else that's causing this problem, and that you really want to get help for it sooner rather than later. So there are a number of things that can really be indicators. And then finally, use your intuition. You don't overstep on intuition. That when you know that you have just exhausted all you know, and you're tired of being tired, and you're tired of trying to figure it out, and you spent a bunch of money trying to buy this fix and that magic and all of that, then it may be time to work with an expert.
Thank you. So I'm gonna make sure I got this. So one is where you give yourself a time frame and a goal of when you think you should have your results. You also have, oh Lord Jesus, I started looking at comments and lost my train of thought.
Just roll into the comments.
I admit it. I confess. But I love how you talked about also when people have significant limitations, because that happens for some folks, that it's you some people, they're tired, they need seatbelt extenders, especially when we were flying more.
Yeah, that's another one. Mm-hmm.
And then not necessarily if something happened, you mentioned getting out, if there's an emergency, like being able to manage stairs or something like that, if there's an emergency and the elevator was out.
Yeah, exactly. Those are things that really make you start to think, how okay am I with maintaining the rest of my life, not actively moving towards shifting this. So it really is, and for some people it's things like being able to run and play with their small children or their grandchildren, or feeling safe. I have some people that are a little bit older, and sometimes their kids don't want them to babysit because they can't really, their agility is low, and they're not able to really move and take care of certain needs. So everybody's going to have a different motivator, but I think these are all indicators of when. And then finally, I think it's important to take it a step beyond health, just really quickly, is to how you feel about yourself. That is always a very, very important litmus test. And some people feel great, and there's nothing to say anything about that. I work with people who are not at their best. And so you heard me say earlier, I help you not only look great, but feel better and live at your best. Whether that's your presenting your best self in the corporate space, or as an entrepreneur, being able to present your best self if you are going into a creative space, if you are going into the dating world, if you're looking at creating new relationships. Are you presenting your best, what you identify with as your best? And that is a very important indicator. Some signs of that may be, where do you take your photos? If you're taking group photos, everybody come on, we're going to take a group picture. If you find yourself
In the back.
the back, that might be just something to think about. If you find yourself um, avoiding group events, or avoiding getting out with the girls, or avoiding going on vacations, like something's always coming up, I can't swing it right now. But in the background, you know that traveling is a hassle. You know that you're going to get there and everybody else is, and I'm not saying live your life because of everybody else. I'm talking about your feelings. And when you're feeling at your best, you're getting there and you're like, well, I don't have anything to wear. Nothing in my closet fits. Meltdowns in the morning when you're getting ready to do something important and you're melting down because nothing in the closet fits. You can't go out and be your best when you're melted down. You got to switch gears quickly. So those are some of the things that may be just indicators to think about. Am I really at my best? So that's another thing that's outside the health realm.
Well, since I'm a psychiatrist, I'm all on that.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, their mental health and how they're feeling physically are very, very closely tied. So sometimes it's, and that's one of the reasons it's great to have people that are knowledgeable professionals work with you, because sometimes there needs to be a little help with figuring out what was first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
And then figuring out where's the best place to start, because we all know that if people are anxious, if people are depressed and down, it affects your cortisol. Your cortisol goes up, it goes up, and that also is hard weight to lose. So, and then also what that Dr. Jada talked about and alluded to was that when people feel like they're heavier, their confidence goes down. Mm-hmm. So when your confidence goes down, you most likely aren't as happy, and you may not be as effective in other things you're doing, even in work or your relationship, because you're not feeling confident. Yeah. So one of the things I love about these kinds of discussions is kind of how health, wellness, and lifestyle all come together in a way that allows you to function at your best, because you have to be mentally and emotionally healthy and physically healthy, and they all kind of play with each other. They're like all in the same sandbox.
Mm-hmm. You nailed it. You nailed it. Is that synergy and that holistic approach to how we live, exist, and have our being is really, really critical. And sometimes it can be confrontational. It can be confrontational to begin to have a personal dialogue around these truths. So sometimes that's where I have to start. That's where we begin. It just all depends on where people are. And but you nailed it in that if our confidence and our sense of self, it begins to impact our sense of ability. And what I sometimes find is that there's almost a projection that begins to happen. So when one's confidence begins to seep out or to leak, then others around them or others that they work with, their character changes. Have you
Mm-hmm.
noticed, like that person's, so now she's never this, he's always that. My husband is gets on my, and my wife does it, and my kids never, and everybody's against me. Nobody's working. So we begin to then, because it's too much. It's too much to handle, and for the sake of self-preservation, it has to be deflected. And so that's when we get into this whole hodgepodge of emotions, a lot of which have not even been identified. So we really, really have to look at the tentacles and how they begin to really kind of reach and grab a hold to other things that are anchors for our lives.
Well, I just noticed the time. I'm so sad because I don't want it to end, but we do need to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
So I do want to encourage people, if you feel like they need this, to tag them, share this. If you're watching later, please hit hashtag replay. If you have comments, even after this is over, we will circle back. So Dr. Jada, do you have any pearls or takeaways you want people to know?
I just want people to know that there's the universe is wide open for them for love and support, success, and manifesting what you know is important to you, to your health, and also to your health legacy. So sometimes if we're in a hard spot about making decisions, we can make decisions when they impact other people, sometimes a little bit better than the impact that it has for us as individuals. So I always say, think about your family. Think about the things that are important to you as a legacy. Because a lot of us work really hard to leave financial legacies and the wealth build when it comes to dollars and material things and land and properties and all of that. But I challenge you to think about the legacy of health, the health legacy, because as parents and as sister friends and all of those roles that we play, that is something that we have an opportunity to make a huge impact and difference for generations to come. So think about those things and then just get help. Just get help. Just get help.
I'm gonna have to start talking about the legacy of health. I'll give you credit though. I'll give you credit. But I love what you said. I don't have a ton to add to it because I think it was said so well, so passionately and from the heart, is that the great thing about taking care of yourself is it puts you in a place where you can support others the way most people actually want to. Because I read a book, I'm trying to remember, it was by Taylor Hartman, but it talked about the highest level of basically self-actualization and living your best life was being able to live a life of service. And it's difficult to serve others or to even serve your family if you're not taking good care of yourself. And one of the things that's even more obvious during this time is you'll see people that as they do these things for themselves, the interesting thing when Dr. Jada was talking about the legacy of health, you'll see their kids are exercising with them, or you'll see the cute little things of the little babies doing yoga next to their mom, or in the kitchen cooking healthy food or picking out vegetables with their parents. But it's ironic how all of these things, when you start making those changes in your life, they just expand out and affect the world around you. So I think you did such a great job of calling it the legacy of health. Of health. I said help. I guess I'm thinking help. We talked about help too. Is that is excellent. So the next thing before we wrap up, I want you to let people know, how do they find you and how can they work with you?
Sure. So I can be found, if you're looking on the social media handles, I'm at Instagram as well as Facebook at Dr. Jada MD. So that's DRJADA MD. And I'm also there on LinkedIn. So in terms of working with me personally, you can find me at my website, which is getreadywithdrjada.com. That's www.GETREADY, get ready with DRJADA.com. And that's the first step towards caring for yourself. So I'm happy to be able to come tonight and to share and to serve. I certainly hope that you got something from this discussion, learned something, and are leaving here super motivated, super excited, and super ready to serve yourself first.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jada. I'm so excited. I'm excited. Did I sound excited? I know my whole crew can't get me because Joy held me accountable, and I have a ration. I can only say excited once per live stream, so I went over it today.
Be excited the whole time.
But apparently everyone loves you. So, but I knew they would because I love you so much.
Thank you. Oh, and you one other point is that there's a video giveaway if you would like to just kind of get some insight into 5 steps to true happiness. We're going to I talk in that video about 5 struggles to strategies for true happiness, and that's live with drjada.com, and I think it's rolling past us.
Yes, I was going to say something about it because it was rolling.
Yeah,
rolling the whole time.
Yeah, it looks like live with, but you can't come live with me, but you can go live. It's LIVE, live with drjada.com. Live with drjada.com. There's a freebie there, and I'd love to stay in touch and share more information with you.
Oh, thank you so much. If it wouldn't sound crazy, I'd be like, I'm giving you a round of applause, but I don't want all weird background noise. Yay!
Everybody tonight that took time out of their busy schedules to be here with us, and you and your success, and you didn't add the COVID-19, you subtracted the COVID-20. That's worth celebrating. So let's just give everybody a round of applause because we're excited.
See, you said it, not me.
I did. I gave it.
So again, thank you all for coming. I'm Dr. Ericka, double board certified psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I help women who are disgruntled with life and love redefine and reboot their dreams in order to attract more aligned people and opportunities. I have over 15 years of experience in human behavior. I help you get through things with your sanity intact. Want to remind you, I've got a couple things coming up, something that's really new. You may have, if this is your first time seeing me or you haven't seen me in a while, I now have a telepsychiatry practice that I see adults by your computer, phone, or tablet. So if you need that privacy and you want some top-notch Harvard-trained care that is not rushed because we are not dealing with people's insurance, you can go to goodwintelepsych.com and we can make some things happen. And I'm very blessed to have this opportunity to be able to provide mental health care the way I want, because my personal mantra is minimal medication for maximum effect. And I just want people to be able to really enjoy life, because one of the great things about psychiatry is it touches people's spirits and their souls. So that's one of the reasons I totally love it. I will be back. We'll be doing daily mental wellness tips. for the rest of the week. And then on Friday, we'll do the mental wellness check-in like we've been doing. I just want to once again say thank you, Dr. Jada, for taking time out of your day to spend some quality time with us and share all of that knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the practice. I mean, I'm so excited. That's my number 2. Because truly you serve a purpose. You serve a purpose and you meet a need. And one of the biggest potential crises that will fall out as a result of this is around the area of mental health. And you and I both know that there has long been kind of almost a scarcity, as if it were available for some and not for others. And then there's also been this stigma around reaching out for needed help. Right. So I think now more than ever, services like yours and people like you are needed and welcomed into this kind of new age of profession. And I know that you will definitely just leave a footprint on the earth for all that you do to care for people the way that you do.
Oh, that's why I have to call you all the time. You always make me feel good.
And you should.
But I'm blessed to have you. It's always lovely to hear about what you're doing. I know you are out there making a huge difference. And I'd like to encourage people to reach out to Dr. Jada. She is like, her practice is named basically real because she is so real. She's brilliant. She's grounded. She's down to earth. She's going to tell you like it is, but she's going to tell you with some love.
Yeah. Because, you got to start with the truth. We got to start with where we really are. And that's really important. So thanks again for having me. Thanks to all of you that hung around. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I wish you health and happiness.
All right. Sending out love to everyone. And I'd like to tell you the one thing I tell you to do every day, make sure you call at least one person. It can be video or audio, but actually get someone on the line and tell them you love them.
Yes.
That's your homework, daily prescription. Doesn't count if you got a voicemail, and texting doesn't count. You need to actually connect with someone. So that's what we got for you today. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. Stay safe. Take good care of yourself and prioritize your own health. All right?
All right. That's a deal. Bye for now.
Bye.
Next time, beautiful.